Hello, this is Schwermetallisch and I'm talking to Ricardo of the band Moonshade. The band has just released their new output, as we said, The Sky's Ablaze on the 22nd of July. And yeah, I guess we're gonna talk about that.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's
Hi,
rock.
thank you for having me.
So yeah, did it went well, the launch of the new album?
I think so. It's the first time in a long time that we've done everything by ourselves to release this album independently. Um, it was quite surprising to see the reception that it got. The streaming numbers just shot up, where we rose from like 700 people listening on Spotify to like 35,000. Just crazy numbers that
That's
we
that's
started.
that's a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, still trying to wrap my head around that number, but yeah, it's that was fun. That we started getting a bunch of pre-orders. People like we got basically all positive reviews of the album. It was a lot of work because we had to take charge not just of the musical part. We dabbed a little bit in the production because our guitarist recorded and edited everything. Then we sent everything to Titan Forge Productions to be mixed and mastered. We took an active role in the videos, uh, doing like storylines and ideas and taking care of makeup and just everything. We participated actively in that as well. Uh, then we had to take care of everything the launch requires. We had to have merch made. We had to have albums made. We had to like make sure everything arrived on time. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but it compensates because, well, everything's in our hands and everything's under our control, and that's just amazing. Yeah, and
And
that
you get
it really helps.
you get more of the share.
Yeah, of course, because
Or
labels are
there is no
brutal.
no share. It's all yours.
Exactly, because labels are brutal nowadays. It's how it works. I'm not complaining. One either plays the game or doesn't. But the small percentages that a label gives to the band are brutal. And right now, it's the first time that we ever released anything without debt. Everything's paid just with pre-orders. That and for us, that's crazy. It's the first time that that's happened. So we're really happy about it, and I think people are really enjoying the album as well.
uh,
That
so
that
so
also
uh,
helps.
so everything is paid already, and everything that comes on top of this is pure win, pure
For the
money.
next album.
Oh, that's fucking sexy.
Yeah, yeah. First time that's ever happened. I wasn't even sure that was possible.
In
Apparently, it is.
Germany, that would be die Kosten sind gedeckt. um, I have to Google that to proper name this in English. Kostendeckung. Ah, it's a cost recovery.
Okay, cost
Yeah,
recovery. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. That's. I just um, learned for a new job with that involves stuff like this all the time. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Um, as we said, The Sky's Ablaze is your second full length since you came together in 2010. That is 12 years ago.
yeah. It was a little while ago. We got together in 2010, and then we released a demo shortly after, a four-song demo. We called it The Path of Redemption. It was only released online. Then we could only release our first EP in 2014. Um, and then it took another 4 years to actually get an album made. It's really hard to build up a project from the ground up, and we had a lot of formation shifts. We had a lot of people coming in and out of the band, either because they didn't adapt to it, we didn't adapt to them, or just sometimes they were the perfect member for the band, but they just had to go. They had to work outside the country. That actually happened twice. Um, so it was complicated. Then the first time we actually got a stable formation was like in 2017, I think. Then we started working on the first album, which was Sunday Throne. But then, well, we released Sunday Thrones. We toured a little bit over the peninsula in Spain, Portugal, the Basque Country. We got to go to big festivals, play with amazing bands that we love, like Omnium Gatherum and Decapitated, with Amorphism and Temptation. That was a lot of fun. But then the pandemic hit, basically, just when we finished our tour, our Iberian tour. And
Yeah,
well,
it hit us all.
yeah.
It's this fucking thing.
Yeah, but we never stopped. We joined the online festival trend. We actually participated in Metal Injection's Slay at Home, which was a ton of fun to be featured in such a huge, probably the biggest expression of extreme metal media out there. And to be invited to perform there was actually a pleasure. And then we had some more online festivals. We actually put together all those recordings and made an EP, which was a live session EP. We called it the Eventide Sessions. And then we started working on the new album. Then some people had to leave the band. We lost a guitarist, we lost a drummer. But then they got replaced with two amazing musicians, Luis and Maya, which they have another band called Phase Transition. That's where we found them at. We kindly requested if they would lend us their talents, and they did. And the quality of the album shot up because we had like an amazing set of musicians for this album. We had Diogo Mota from Garia on the drums. This was before we replaced our drummer. Then we had our new drummer, Maya, actually took care of the orchestrations of the album. So everything you hear in terms of orchestral parts was mostly him, with a little help from Pedro, our guitarist. And Luis took care of the solos, which were just amazing guitarists, breathtaking guitarists like Petrucci, John Petrucci style, but with a little more pizzazz, stadium rock vibe. That's why I love it.
Okay.
It's technical but catchy. And we had like our guest musicians, which were Sophia Beck, also from our two new members, other band, Phase Transition. She's the lead singer. And then we had Sandra Oliveira, which is actually my vocal coach. And she has a progressive metal band called Lady Zeus. And well, just it was the dream team. We were actually the weakest link with all of those. Yeah, to saying goodbye to. But yeah, that was it. That's how, as you said, Schedule Plays came together. It was basically the whole pandemic, just working through it amidst the online shows, writing basically online. We couldn't get together. It was basically putting some riffs on Dropbox, just coming up with ideas, just putting them together like Legos online. It isn't as fun, but we pulled through. And I think the result is adequate, I think. Maybe.
So I did check the band out at over the Metal Archives, and I just hit the button with similar artists. You are compared to bands like Omnium Gatherum, Insomnium, Wolfheart, Bellacore, Aim and Amarth, and stuff like that. What would you say? Which band is a band you would compare your sound to?
It's hard. If I was just thinking about our work before this album, I would say all the bands you just listed, basically, but especially Insomnium, Bellacore, and Amon Amarth. Those would be our biggest influences up to that point. But I think this new album is a little bit more experimental. It dabs a little bit into the core. It dabs a little bit into heavy metal, classic heavy metal. and gothic metal, and it has a little bit of several different influences that don't really fit into the melodic death metal archetype. So um, up until this point, I'm not really sure how I would cite our influences. I think Bellacore can stay because they are by themselves a very experimental band, very progressive experimental band, a bit different from the bunch, like Neoplivis Scars, for example. They can be considered melodic death metal, but they have a very personal, specific vibe that doesn't really fit with the rest of the group, the Children of Bodoms, the Amaramarts, the Calmas, the everything. So yeah, I would maintain those, but I would add, for example, Heaven Shall Burn, which has a more modern sounding style, which we took inspiration from for songs like Epitaph or Valley Dying Stars. They have a lot of that Godiva vibe from Heaven Shall Burn. Um, and a little bit of the new upcoming core scene as well. Well, not new and upcoming, they've been here for a long time, but yeah, a little bit of that deathcore, symphonic death metal that's been coming up. The Shadow of Intense, the Lorna Shores. Uh, that's where we took a little bit of inspiration from as well, that we didn't used to in the past. So yeah, I would say I would say that basically.
So, as a musician that is working in the industry for like 12 years now, what are the biggest ups and downs for you in the business and as a vocalist and a musician?
Well, it's hard. I wouldn't consider myself an expert in the business because, well, we're still not professionals. We each have our own jobs, our own careers, and we do music in our spare time. But we had our brushes with the industry, and I would say that the hardest part is there are a ton of bands right now with amazing quality. It's easy to have quality nowadays. It's cheaper and easier to get access to great production, to great artwork. So competition is fierce, just fierce. We have the advantage of having the freedom not to be controlled by record labels and radios. Now we can all put our stuff out, and the algorithms will just take care of the rest if we publicize our work um, well enough. That leads to the other hard part, which is the absolute sea of information that we have to beat to get into people's ears. It's a lot. It's a ton of bands, a ton of noise. I don't mean to be insulting, just like a ton of information that you have to like wade through and pull through just to get somebody's attention for like 5 seconds. And hey, here's my band, give it a chance, maybe you'll like it. Then you have to like pray that they have an attention span of more than 5 seconds, because like Moonshade is not music that is direct. There's a lot to unpack, both musically, lyrically, thematically. So people need to like actually pay attention. And I'm saying this not to be pretentious or anything, but that's our point in making the music. We want to make something that will make you unpack it and find out new stuff with each listen, because that's what we like. That's why we love Winter Sun. That's why we love Insomnium, and that's why we love like the more modern bands that still do it. For example, if you read the lyrics to Lorna Shore, they're absolute amazing poetry. They're not your average typical heavy metal death metal lyrics. They're very impressive in that regard. So that's what we're trying to do, but it goes kind of against the trend.
Yeah. I get what you say, and it's not pretentious at all. The main problem with people nowadays is a very short attention span.
I suffer from it as well. I'm not just, I include myself on that group. Like, I wish I had more time and more patience to actually analyze, but there's just so much. So they only have 24 hours. So it gets hard. Like, you get at least uh, once a day or once every 2 days, I find a new band which I enjoy how they sound. So you don't really get a chance to unpack it the way it should unless you actually force yourself to it. And I feel like I have to force myself to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like I'm doing reviews for every day, and if I want to listen to music outside of that job, I have to force myself to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's easier for me because I don't do it 24/7. I'm a biologist, so I work listening to music. I go home in the metro listening to music because I can still, since Moonshade is not a full-time job, it doesn't really tire me from music as much. I actually take great pleasure in listening to it while I work or while I go home. It's like those tiny moments of peace while you listen to people screaming their lungs out at you.
I know this has nothing to do with the band and the sound itself, but you are a biologist.
Yes.
In what field?
I work in animal science, in aquaculture. Specifically, I'm actually right now at the interdisciplinary center for well, we call it CIMAR, which is the Interdisciplinary Center for Marine Investigation and Environmental Investigation here in Porto. And I'm currently in the third year of my PhD, trying to survive until the end. And basically, what we do is in our lab we experiment with different aquaculture feeds, so we can increase fish quality and fish health. Uh, my specialty is mostly like circular economy and sustainability. I try to find like alternate food sources for fish that provide like some sort of antioxidant benefit, so they are more disease resistant, but simultaneously with natural products, so it's a little bit healthier, better for the consumer. Just boring stuff.
No, it sounds like you're trying to save the planet. It's pretty cool.
We do our best. We do.
And I'm not a scientist, but I think I understand enough of that stuff and the field and the surroundings to find it interesting. It's not like, oh, that's over my head, and let's talk about boobs.
It is super interesting. It's mostly just how people explain it. Sometimes they overcomplicate things. Like we're the ones who are supposed to like deal with the complicated part, like the math and statistics and the numbers and the working with the animals and everything that has those unpleasant parts when you have to deal with something in a more scientific level. A lot of guts and a lot of blood. It's actually a very death metal job. So,
yeah, I thought so. It's like, hey, oh, blood, lot of blood. Yes.
So, but when we take it to the big audience, you're supposed to make it palatable. That's our job, and sometimes we don't do it all that well, and that's why some people, I think, find it boring, because I think it's actually fantastic. And if you explain it to somebody in a simple way, they're going to be interested, in a simple, like practical way, and put yourself in their shoes for 10 seconds. Don't start talking about like integrals or equations or whatever. Nobody cares about that. You're paid to care about that. If it would be so amazing, we would do it for free. But so yeah, that's the fun part about science, doing science.
Would you say there's a connection between you being in the field of science and your music?
Now there is. I started to actually put a little bit of that into Moonshade. It kind of helped that the two new members that got in, for example, me, Pedro, and Nuno, our bass player, used to be our keyboard player. Now he's our bass player. We've been together forever. Nuno joined the band like 8 years ago, or 7 years ago, 8 years maybe. Pedro and I have been here from the beginning. And now these two new amazing fellas that joined in are actually very well connected to science as well. They just finished their master's degree in physics engineering. They both work in the field. So we actually felt a little more, I felt a little more at ease. Not that Pedro and Nuno have ever been against it by any means. They're actually very interested in science as well, but now we have like a common understanding between everyone. So we started doing songs like Epitaph that approaches the theme of global warming, and then songs like Valley of Dying Star, which approaches like the Manhattan Project, the atom bomb, and the possibility of a nuclear holocaust. So we kept the poetic vein. We didn't bomb you with equations or anything, but we injected a fair bit of who we are into that, because who we are right now is basically a band of scientists. It's the truth. Three of us are scientists, the others computer engineers. So it's who we are. So it's honest.
So
And
it's not a big deal, or not to wonder that you guys are doing music that people will have to unpack, will have to re-listen to, and to listen to it in depth. Just yeah, we're scientists. We're not making dump music.
oh, we could. I know a lot of
Yes.
scientists that love dumb music, and I love dumb music in my spare time. I don't like making it, but I like listening to it sometimes. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but I listen to a ton of shit. But I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
uh, but
So
yeah,
so
but
so,
it's
so
it's
what
not.
is the guilty pleasure? What is the band that is kind of stupid?
Oh, so many, so many. Like I actually listened a few times to pop punk. And pop punk is dumb by nature. Um, I listen to a ton of it. I consume a ton of it, and, and I'm neither proud nor ashamed of it. It's just it is what it is. I listen to a lot of hip hop, mostly like lyrical technical hip hop, but I also dab a little bit into the trap scene, which is very dumb. I listen to it, but I know what I'm saying. Look, I'm actually a consumer of trap music, and I have to be honest. It's dumb. It's stupid. The beats are great, but it's stupid. I'm sorry. So it is what it is. There are some trap artists which have some depth to it, but mostly you're
Mostly
not
it's
gonna
dumb.
read. Yeah, you're not gonna read Future to get enlightened. You know, you do it to turn up because that's
Okay.
the only thing you can do with it. But yeah, but mostly I still listen to metal and classical jazz and rock. I listen to so much music, there are some things which I consider to be dumb. But in terms of Moonshade doing like complex music, that's not, well, I wouldn't say that it's because we're scientists. I would say that it's because it's what we listen to. Most bands that do that we listen to don't have the scientists in the band, or they have science enthusiasts sometimes, but sometimes not even that, but just very creative, artistic people that actually know how to layer something in a way that you almost find something new with each listen. And that's what we enjoy doing. We love bands like inside the band Dream Theater is very like Haken, Winter Sun, just like those bands that have a complexity to them, like a depth. I wouldn't say complexity, I would say a depth. That's two different things. You can make simple music but with emotional depth to it, and that's what we're trying to do. um, we're still trying to be catchy. We're still trying to get in your ear because that's what we love as well. We don't want to bore you with the 150 different time signatures when you're not going to even remember one riff from the song. We want you to remember. We want you to have fun. It's not supposed to be homework, but it has to have a little depth to it. It's one thing is what you listen to, another thing is what you want to do. And what's fun to do is this. actually building something, like building a castle from the ground up. It's
Yeah.
hard, but it's more satisfying in the end because you get something with so many angles, so different perspectives, so rich, so culturally and artistically rich, that you actually feel pride in it. You didn't make just another song that people get on the first listen. You actually made the art.
So one thing I have to compliment you guys on is that you seem to be in every social media thing that exists. And the reason why I say this is, I'm a reviewer. I do write-ups for bands, and if a band doesn't doesn't cooperate with the internet, like it's yeah we have a 4 track single, and we're too true, too tough and too heavy metal to take part in Facebook and Bandcamp and Instagram and have an own homepage. It's like it's almost impossible to do a write-up for a band where you can't find any information on. And this is actually, I think, one of the reasons you are doing so well with the new release, because people are made aware that you exist and that your music exists. That is cool. That is very clever, and that is something you definitely do better than a bunch of bands. That's pretty cool. One question. What is the single best thing that happened to you in the context of music and your band?
The single best thing. It's been 10 years, so much has happened. Um, well, I would say that the best thing that ever happened was probably um, our first gig. I still have a ton of fun with the band, but when I started doing shows with them, I was never a lead singer. I used to be a punk rock guitarist, playing like Misfits covers and things like that. And I was always like in the background of everything, just minding my own business. I was never used to being center stage. And I got into vocals from a friend of mine, and when we had a band together, we needed a vocalist, so I started doing gutturals. I found out like I had some knack for it and the patience to master it correctly. Um, and I was kind of afraid what I would find out. Would I be good on stage? Would I be bad? Would I become one of those vocalists that are just unbearable with their ego? Um, but it was like a super formative experience because you need to like our first show was for like it wasn't a band contest, but it was a local band contest when we got a bunch of our friends coming, then a bunch of curious strangers because death metal doesn't usually play in that band contest, and there were like 300 people there. And it was so scary, and I was a very scared kid. I was scared of everything. I was very like laying low, minding my business. And when I got to like face those 300 people, um, I actually found out that like this doesn't have to be a persona. It doesn't have to be someone that you incorporate on stage. Just let it go, um, and go back to being like your normal scared self. It's part of you. It's part of who you are. And when I found out that side about me, I started to actually incorporate it in day to day, and everything just got better. You stop being scared. You start like holding your ground. Um, and there's the whole management of the ego. That there's a lot of work there that many artists fail to do. Um, and but the fact that I actually got to step on stage with them taught me a lot about human interactions, being a normal functioning human being, not being scared, being brave mostly, and Yeah, I would say that. And it all began with our first show when I was like scared to death, facing like 300 people, and I managed to do it somehow, a bit still and a bit nervous, but I pulled through. Um, I found out there's nothing to be scared of. That was fun.
So a lot of personal growth on that evening.
Oh yeah. And throughout these 10 years, a lot of personal growth. They've taught me a lot. Like it's not just giving, it's mostly taking, especially life lessons, great friends that you do that you have along the way, and some you lose just touch with, but you're still friends. But um, yeah, it's been a ride. I wouldn't stop for the world for anything in the world. Actually, it's been super fun.
So Zoom just told me that we have about 8 minutes left. So that's one more question for the two of us. I always ask this one, everyone. And the question is, if you could choose one band or lineup of bands to tour with, who would you choose?
Well, I would say, um, well, when you're an artist, you want to show your music to as many people as possible. So of course, I'm just gonna be basic with this reply because it just makes sense to me. You want to go with the biggest draws in heavy metal so that they get a bunch of people there, like stadiums filled to see you. So I would say like Bring Me the Horizon, Slipknot, Metallica, just like the great ones. So we can first of all meet them because like they're legends, all of them. Like they redefined metal as we know it, and they brought like thousands of kids to guitar-oriented music, and we should be eternally grateful to them for that. Even if we enjoy the sound or not, it's not relevant. Um, so yeah, I would say I would just put all three of them actually, just like Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, and Slipknot, and then just us. Everybody would be like, "Who the hell are these guys?" And I'm like, "You're gonna find out."
Yeah,
I would be
as I
yeah,
mentioned, you are clever. Yeah, that's a thought behind those social media tags you have, and just being mindful of yeah of the possibility of cross promotion, because that shit really works. It works.
yeah. Just like the main thing about having a band is that you want to. Well, it's cool to meet artists that you love because these I like these artists, but they're not my favorite. I would love to meet like the Will Ramos from Lauren the Shore. He's probably the best vocalist in metal. And for me, I would love to meet the guys from Insomnium. I've actually met their guitarist when we played with Omnium Gatherum. I would like to meet the guys from Bellacore. I would like to meet, of course. But if you ask me, like in a band like in a scenario, well, of course, what I want even more than that is that Shade will just like rule everything there is to rule. That should be the goal. If you stay somewhere along the way, that's fine. Just aim as high as you can. So, of course, I would say like just not doesn't matter if they're my favorite bands or not. Just like give me the biggest draws, and we would do our best to match them. And if we fail, we would stay somewhere along the way.
I guess you would sell a lot of merchandise and CDs.
Yeah,
With,
taking over the world. That's the point.
yeah, that's a good closing point. Yeah, thanks for taking the time out of your day and for doing this at work. I guess because you are a scientist, nobody will jump on your head for that. If I will do this in my field, it would be like, are you insane?
I think I'll be fine. It's Friday. At the end of the day, nobody's here.
Yeah. So, do you have to work anymore today, or is?
No, I'm done.
That's
I'm gonna
great.
have a beer and just disconnect my brain for 10 seconds. You wouldn't know the difference.
Okay. Yeah. So have a nice one, have a cold one, and thanks for your time. Yeah, that's it. That's a wrap.
Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.